So we talked about the things that have been happening over the last year, and one of the things that you mentioned, apart from multi-model AI, is the AI agents.
Yep.
Again, at times, I mean, we've been in this space for quite some time. We know, right? So vendors try to push out some things. It almost seems to me 2023 was AI tools. It's all about AI tools everywhere. It will radically improve your life. And then 2024 was about GPTs. Hey, this GPT, that GPT, and multi-model. And now 2025 seems like AI agents. So if you could level set to the audience, what is your take on these AI agents? Are they really the trends innovation? And we both attended the keynote that Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, had at CES, and then AI, agentic AI, of course, is what he was more talking about. Is the AI agents is a real thing, or what are the implications of it 2025?
Yeah, I think they're a real thing with a lot of caveats, right? So one of the slides that I put in my deck now is from 1995 from a magazine called Datamation, where I did a forecast. I did a forecast of 1, 3, and 5 year forecasts for agents in 1995. Right?
Wow.
So agents are not new.
Did AI you call them agents at that time?
Absolutely. It was an agent. It was a forecast on intelligent agents from 1995. Not new, right? And there were agents that were running on Macs and PCs back in the 90s. They were expert system based and logic based, and we probably would call them RPA today. And a lot of the RPA companies, I think, are kind of rebranding themselves as agent companies now, right? So we're already, I think a lot of the agent stuff that's the new marketing term. So I have to figure out how to have it. And if I'm building off of an engine that has an agentic capability, then I sort of have it already, right? So if I'm already partnering with a language model that has an agent feature, I can say that I have that, and I can try to figure out how to put that into my features. I think the bigger issue is that we don't know what we want from agents or what they are. So I was briefed recently by Microsoft on the agents around Copilot, right? And one of the characteristics or characterizations they gave me was that agents were like documents, right? And everybody would have their own set of agents, and they've come up with a console that manages cost and looks at execution and all that kind of stuff, which is something they, of course, never did with Excel. There was never, and they were saying it's like everybody has a bunch of Excel spreadsheets and they all have their own version. Again, from an IT professional standpoint, that's one of the reasons that we have data lakes and business intelligence these days, is because I remember meetings where everybody would walk in with their own spreadsheet, and we'd say, what was the sales on the West Coast this week? And you'd get 6 different numbers because everybody had different spreadsheets, right? And so that I could see that kind of level of agent, if it's all personal, becoming very, very much a contention point of well, I sent my agent to do these things, and well, what data sources did you use, and how do you, how did it bring the stuff together? And then mine's different than yours, right? That's one level, and that's very personal and very knowledge worker centric. And on the other side, there are companies that are talking about agents kind of living and coexisting with your enterprise software, figuring out what it does and rewriting it in an agent form so that eventually agents overtake enterprise software and become the new model for how we execute all processes across an organization. That's a very different vision, right? And so, which one of those are going to win? Are they going to coexist? I think that's, a lot of the discussion. I think just saying that I have agents is insufficient. I think organizations have to say, what are the, what capabilities do I need? What do I need agents to do? And then how do I think about the governance of those for our processes? Because we still, the kind of single source of truth that comes out of databases, we still need to maintain that, an organization has a view of itself And that's what enterprise software was supposed to do, right? It was supposed to give you here's how much inventory we have, here's what's happening on the factory floor, here's what's happening in our scheduling systems, here's what's happening in the air if I'm an air company, right? And when we look at, we have to think about are agents going to be able to do those same things, and are we going to be able to trust them? Are we going to be able to understand them? There's discussion, of course, Salesforce, Mark Benioff did a big thing. He talked about agents as digital labor. I think that introduced a whole interesting side conversation about how do you manage digital labor, right? That's what does that mean for replacement of human labor, and what does it mean for managing digital labor? But I think it also, raises the question of how am I coordinating my interactions with customers, and how am I building the architectures? One of their solutions is to have, they're talking about, and others are as well, guardian agents, right? So I have agents that manage other agents and double check them. My question is how much hierarchy do you have, right? Do you have angelic agents at some point that are at some higher level that manage the guardian agents, right? We could have a whole agent mythology kind of coming around, right? And where do you trust them, and which ones become so ethereal that it's just got to be right because they're the highest level, right? I don't think we think through these problems as well as we need to. I think agents right now are, they're real. They do exist, right? Like if you're looking at an M&M commercial with Santa Claus, he does exist. They do exist, right? Agents do exist. But I think I think we're at the point that instead of this being the year of agents being the thing that takes over everything, I think it's the year that we're going to grapple with what it means when we have
what it
agents,
means, and
right?
how they fit into the process.
How does it fit? Right. Yeah. Exactly.